Okay, hey, in this video, we're going to cover how to actually set up a webinar calendar. So these things are typically used obviously for a webinar, but also for virtual events and things where you're going to have a specific day that you want to meet people in a specific set of time. And so that's what we're going to actually set up here. And it's really not that hard. So the first thing I want to do before we go too deep into this is do a little bit of foundation and housekeeping. And so what we're going to do, inside this portal here, we have our calendar view and setup. And so what I want to do is go into calendar settings. And now in the back side of the setup interface over here, what we first want to do is go to connections. And I like this interface because in here now, you have me, okay, and maybe the other people that may be associated with that. And you have the calendars that you're set up. And the neat thing about the way these calendars work is you have your primary work calendar, and then you could have a personal calendar. So if you're maintaining a work calendar, but then you share something with your partner or something like that, the nice thing about these calendars is they will look at both of those to make sure that you don't double book, let's say if you have a doctor's appointment or something like that. So that's a really nice feature to have on here. But more importantly, making sure that you are hooked up to whether it's Google, Microsoft, Apple, or any of those like that. You can hook that up here by just selecting new. And then you can link the calendars as well. So this allows you to sync back and forth. So when somebody schedules you, it not only shows up inside your calendar portal and on your desktop or dashboards inside your app, but it'll also show up in your Google Calendar or Microsoft Calendar as well. Yeah. And so then the next thing we want to do here is video teleconferencing. So it's important to set up this because it automatically embeds into that link for you. So we want to make sure that is set up. It's really easy to do. You just click on this link right here and go ahead and hit connect and just walk through the wizard. And it does all of that for you. Okay. And then Google Organic Links allows you to, embed your calendar directly into Google, which is kind of a cool little thing for the widget. All right. Now that we have that done, we want to check also like our availability. And because if we have things booked on our calendars and then we set our office hours, but then we're going to plan something outside of those office hours, then we're going to want to make sure that this is set up correctly. Okay. Make sure that's all good to go. Because this, like, if you don't see anything at the very end of this, 9 times out of 10, and you either have something booked on your calendar or you have your hours too restrictive. Okay. Now that we've got that done and we've synced our personal calendar, we've made sure everything linked. Now it's actually time to go ahead and create a webinar calendar. So we come in here to our calendars, and now the first thing I like to do is go ahead and set up a group so that's all set up in that. And so I'm going to create a group in here, and I'm going to go ahead and call these webinar. And that way, I can share this as its own page, and it can actually group a whole bunch of calendars together, which is nice. So yeah, I just don't like sharing the raw calendar in these kind of stuff. Plus, it also groups them in my list so they're easier to find when I'm doing this kind of stuff. And then I'm going to want to leave a description here of because the clients will probably see this if I share this page. So webinar and presentations for Holistic Pulse and business services or business coaching. Okay. And we're going to leave that in Neo, which is just an outline form. And I'm just going to title this thing webinars. And this is just a slug in here. For your calendar, it would have like calendar widget calendar, and then this little slug as well. So that's just a way for us to find that. All right, so now that I've got that created, it's already taken. Okay. For fun, oops. There we go. And I'll do that later. So now I've got my group set up in here. So you can see that. Now I'm going to come into calendars, and it's time to create a calendar. So I'm going to come in here, and so I have a choice when I set these up. So I can set up like a one-on-one meeting type of situation, and go with that, or so yeah, personal calendar, or I actually prefer more of a round robin in this, and it works out a little bit better because I like the ability to kind of expand. So if this is going to be a standing thing, or you're going to have alternates or something like that, then this works out pretty good. But if you are a solopreneur and that's all you're doing, then yeah, the personal booking will work equally as well. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead to round robin, and then I'm going to go ahead and name it. So in this particular case, I'm just going to call it webinar template, because I'll be using this for other things. And then in here, I'm going to usually add a description to this. So for this one, I'm going to just use webinar template again, but it's good to have, what goes in here, or what the event is. And so this is like that time, and you'll see here in a few seconds that, I probably would use, ChatGPT or something like that to kind of get some points in here to make this clear. So, you'd be surprised at how many people, when they're booking, would have questions when they're scheduling an event. And so, the more, not the bulk of detail, but the more clear that you can make something, the more you're going to save yourself time and hassle, even with this automation. So now we'll come in here, we'll do team members. So I'll go ahead and put myself in here. And if I wanted to, I could go ahead and put my other self, or our joint account. And then I'm just going to title this thing webinar template. So we have that nice and neat. Oops. Like that. And I'll put a 1 in, see if that works. Of course not. It likes to jump. There we go. All right, now we got that all set up. And you can see here, instead of still has widget, but here's the bookings. And so that would be your direct link in that particular case. All right, and then depending on how long that webinar is, I'm going to set that for 120 minutes. Come on up. 120 minutes. And for all purposes here, we're going to take these off because, when you're dealing with webinars and events, they're going to be on very specific dates. Now, if this is a paid gig, I'm going to go ahead and turn on our payments and, set this up for, $97, and then make sure we put a good description in here on what you're buying. So, I'll just put in here purchase description, product, and again, add features and what they're getting. So that way they understand the value. And that's usually how a lot of people buy. Now I could come in here and just lock that out, and then I can come back in. And so that's what I'm going to do. But I could also come in here to, I would go to advanced settings. And that pulls up the whole back menu. So now if I want to, I can go ahead and set up a calendar logo to make it kind of look kind of neat. We have the name here as well. And if I wanted to, I could, throw in, some other information if that made sense. But right now there's no reason to do that. Okay. And then we have our description, and I could do all sorts of things in here, whether I want to add some links, I could put the hyperlink in here. I wouldn't do that here. I can go ahead and change the fonts and kind of write up more of a page description, throw in some bullets and that kind of thing. Well, we will go ahead and add that to our group that we had made earlier. So that way we can keep that nice and neat. And we've got our name. All right. And then we have our meeting invite. So we'll have the contact name, title, and then maybe we'd want to say, what this would be. So, and then I always like to read the little tabs here. So this is what would show up on, this would show up like on like their calendar. So we want to make something that made sense and would stand out here. So for now, I'm just going to call this webinar template. But I would add your event name here so that shows up and nice and neat. Okay. And you could optimize this, that's really up to you and what you want to do. Now here, this is why what I was showing you earlier is so important. So now I can come in and I can add what my link is going to be in here. I'm going to give it a high priority because obviously I'm going to do an event. So I want that to take precedence over this as well. But if you're going to do a physical event, you could add a location here. You could add a whole bunch of other things in here, whether it's an address, Teams, or like a phone call, or whatever you want to do. You could do that, and you can link in an address if you wanted to, and all of that. So there's a lot of functionality here. So if that's a physical event you're going to do, you could do that. All right. And then if you want to, you can pick the color it's going to show up on here so that it stands out. Blue is pretty boring. I'm going to throw purple in. It's kind of our brand colors, and you're good to go there. Okay. Now that we've got the detail part of the page done, now it's time to talk about availability. Okay. So we get into availability. If I'm doing a sales call, I would want to look busy, but in this particular case, we're going to set up an event. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to match 120 minutes and 120 minutes for the duration. I'm not going to fill any of this other stuff out because here in a minute, you'll see why. But if I was doing sales calls and that kind of thing, I would probably want to put some of this stuff in. So like I'd want the minimum amount of notice, how far out they could book, how many bookings I want per day if I don't want to slam myself. And, do I need to have some time to prep and some post time to prep? So all that could be, so if you're running a heavy schedule, like a clinic or something like that, or you're running a sales calendar, that's what those are for. All right. Now, the next thing I'm going to throw in here, we're going to move on to the next tab, is we're going to come into forms. And in here, this is really neat. So if you are just doing a standard webinar, then probably all you need is the default, okay? And so your name, last name, phone number, or cell phone number and email is probably more than enough. But you could come in and pick a custom form. I'm not going to go through all of that right now. But, let's say you had an intake form or you needed some information that goes with it. Then the custom form would be appropriate. Or maybe, as part of that, you're kind of adding a couple fields for survey. So you maybe have a message clause so you can start to look at what people are the most interested in. And that way you can prep your webinar or tailor your webinar appropriately. So that really is up to you. Now, the cool thing is if you're using custom fields and custom forms, when you click on it in the calendar and you can see, instead of like having to go to their contact information, you can actually see their stuff right in the scheduled appointment. So that's pretty cool. All right, now widget order. So here, we have a choice to make. Okay, we could go with letting them pick a time first and then moving on the form and get information. Or if, you can have them fill out the form first, which becomes like a validation tool and helps qualify them, and then pick a time. So for me, I actually choose it the other way because I want them to sign. I want their information first. And if they don't make it into the form, then I can add automation later to entice them to see if I can get them to come back. So almost like a abandoned shopping cart type of setup. So if I'm doing paid, I'll do that. Or if I'm doing some kind of lead magnet type of setup, I'm going to do that. So pretty much for any webinar, I'm going to do that. But if it's more, I want them to schedule, it's free and I want to get them in quickly, then I'm going to have them pick the time and then give me the information. So it really is a matter of what you want. I like doing sticky contacts. So if they've been with me before and they start to pre-populate, if it fills it out, they're more likely to finish it. And so I really like that feature on there. And then the consent box, I always put on a consent box, letting them know that I'm going to contact them. Now, if this is a free gig, this add guests, what this does is somebody registers here, this will allow them to also share that link with other folks. So if you're just doing a lot of promotion work and getting yourself out there, then this is a great button to have. So if you're doing a promotional webinar and you want just as many people to show up, there you go. All right. And then, you can go confirmation. So you could do a confirmation message. You can put smart tags in just depending on how you want to do it, or you can send them to a URL. For me, I usually have these embedded into funnels. So I'll override that in the funnel builder, which gives me that choice of when that button's clicked, what I want to have happen next. But a thank you message is really good and I'm not so much interested when I do a webinar about thanking them for, their appointment. But what I'd really like to do is start to manage expectations. So maybe get them a little excited about what I'm going to cover, or outline the time, or maybe even share the date as that first reminder of what goes on. Or maybe I want them to prep before, so have some things to bring into the webinar, their questions or what have you. And then if you are tracking, which is great, you can put your pixel on in here as well, and auto confirm, and then we can set the price. So if I was going to do payments on this thing, I'm going to set payment. I can set that. I can actually change. I'm not going to click on it now because it'll open another window, but you can change the providers, whether it's Stripe, Square, PayPal, regular credit cards, whatever provider you feel most appropriate with at that time. And this is a fairly new feature, but you can come in here and accept partial payments, whether it's percentage or down, and you can, and then take the rest later. So for me, I take full, but if I'm doing a high ticket item, I may have to do that. And so that's well there. So that kind of finishes off that piece of it. Now we can move into notifications. So the first thing at the top here, it already has built in notification queues. So this is really nice. It's a little limited for what I like to do. So I usually add a lot of automation to my stuff. But just to get this going, this is great. So you can come in here. And so if they have, we've got their information, they filled out the form, but they didn't actually book a time or something like that. That's where that form comes in. Now I can come in here and let's say in app, I enable it. I want to know when somebody's actually booked. So that will show up, and I like it in the app versus overloading my email queue. You should see my email. But then I can also come in here and enable that email here. So I probably won't, I'm going to keep the contact and we're open it up. And if I have pre-made templates already set up, that's great. I can go ahead and come down and pick any of my pre-made email templates in here. And so if I wanted like an HTML template or something that looks really, really nice, I could totally do that. And these are nice because you can really set up a good impression. Okay. But a lot of times we're just kind of doing some admin. So here, I've got my custom codes in here that automatically link the time and what have you. You've got the appointment request. And in here, then now I'm going to explain what they need to do to actually finish that off. And then I can come in here and maybe add a name. So this is from me, or I could say it's from Payon Marketing as well. Or Holistic Hub if I've got that set up. And then I can also set in my email address as so. And if I want to, I can actually test that. So I can put another email address in here and send myself a test message just to see how that works out. Then I can also send myself or whoever the host is going to be. I can do that, or I can just deselect that. And the same thing, if I needed to notify like my front office or something like that, I can bake that in as well. And so I can add as many email IDs as I need to using comma separated. But I'm going to leave that like that. Okay, let's close that out. And you can see now those are both active. And then when an appointment's confirmed, I can go do the same thing. If I've allowed cancellations, I can go and, all of these are going to look exactly the same. Okay, so I can know if somebody's canceled. That's always nice. Like that, for a webinar. If they try to reschedule, which I don't allow on a webinar, it's like you miss it. That's what it is. And then the cool thing now, you can do reminder. So I can enable that and come on in here. And then I usually like to do it a day before just to make sure that, they're in the right headspace. And if I wanted to, I can go ahead and add another one. Let's do it an hour before, like so. And there we go. So now they're all set. And again, I can go ahead and grab a template in here. And you got the reminder. You may want to change this upcoming to upcoming webinar. So that's all set up for you. And then you put your information in here. Probably the biggest thing you're going to want. So you've got your title in here. Name it up, but you might want to really make sure that you've got your meeting link in here. So this appointment link in here is critical. Just to make sure you've got that. And then here is the add to calendar buttons as well. So that's all in there for you. And I close that off with, again, Payon Marketing. So that kind of shows up. And then wherever that's coming from. So this would be, let's do info at, okay, as my dedicated. Okay, and I can test that again. And maybe I want a reminder as well, or maybe I've got staff I need to prep. So I can do that same thing in here, give myself a couple hours to kind of just say that's coming down the pike. Now, if I wanted to do like a text message or a different type of message, then I'm going to have to add automation to this. And that I'll show you in a different queue. Okay, now that we got all that set up, I'm going to save that, close that out. And if I wanted to, afterwards, I could actually follow up with a follow-up email, whether I wanted to embed a quiz or get some feedback or make an offer, I could do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and allow the calendar invite in here so that embeds in. It just all these little things that help them remind that they've booked this and this is really important to them. All right. And then, and then we can assign the contacts to the respective team member. That's something you can do, especially in sales. Okay. And do we want to allow rescheduling? Nope. Do we want a cancellation? Nope. Okay. And so there's our additional notes that we've got on there. And so we're all set. Okay. So now that we got that squared away with all our notifications, then I can go to customization. So here I can go ahead and add like a cover banner because it helps me design out the page. I can drop an image in here. I can do all sorts of really cool things. For you guys, I would recommend just keeping it on the Neo. The Neo is a newer version and allows us to tailor. And And that is, so if I've got certain brands and stuff like that, I can come in here and pick, I think I'm more, and I can drop a hex code in here if I wanted to. And this FF, I can change to, like, let's say I want that at more like a 60%. It's going to only do solids. Okay. And I can change my background color and kind of make that good. And then I can actually customize my button. So in here, maybe I'd want to get my seat now as something I could do here. Okay. So I've got all that squared away. Okay, now the last thing I looked over, so I'm going to come back to this, and that's this slot right here. So since it's a webinar, we're going to want, if I just kept this as one, then it would be a one-on-one. So maybe I'm going to want to have a maximum of 20 people in the room. And so, or if I wanted to, maybe I would do 100, depending on what my Zoom link looks like. So yeah, so you can set that to what you want, basically on how you're actually structured. Okay, now I'll go back down to customization. All right. Now that I've got that all squared away, I can go ahead and do a preview of this, and you can kind of see what that widget looks like. There you go. And okay, so now we're looking at this and there's nothing available. And so I left out one other key step here. And so now I want to come back up to availability, and you can see I had blanked all these out. So now what I want to do is come into the specific date side of the house and get my date squared away. So maybe I'm going to want this, let's say we're doing this on a Saturday, and it's a 2-hour long event. So I'll go ahead and, so let's say I'll do it at 11 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock in the afternoon, like so. And then we could have that. Now, maybe I want to do multiple of these webinars. So I could come in and add another one if I wanted to. I could already added it from 2 to 3. And I could set it up like that. Okay. And 2 to 3, but that's not want. We're going to want that for a 2-hour line because the webinar is 2 hours. Okay. So I hit submit here, and then maybe I'm going to want another one in here. Let's say July 1st. And I'll go ahead and do the same thing, 11. And I'll go ahead and put that to 1 p.m. There we go. Okay, now I've got these in here like so. That's all squared away, 120 minutes. And I'll go ahead and hit save on that. Okay, then we're all set there. And one more time, I'll come back and I'll go ahead and take a look at this widget. There we go. And so now we can test, we can fill out the form. It's already autofilled because I know it's me. Any information I wanted. Okay, I got that. It's going to want me to pay. Okay, and there it is. So now you can see, where those are. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I've got the 11 o'clock there. That's available. So it looks like, as I had told you, I must have something booked on this. Oh, I'm not available on Saturday. There you go. So that's why that's not showing up. All right. But if I had made myself available in the front slot, then I would have that. So with that, I'm going to close this video out. That's how you do this. If you guys want a step-by-step guide, I've got that for you as well. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.